Hello, welcome back. Today I'm gonna be voting in the final round of the Goodreads Choice Awards. I've already done this for the first round and then the second round, and it was a lot of fun both times. I just wanted to invite you along so that we can all see which books have made it onto the final round and which books I'm gonna vote for. So without further ado, let's jump onto my laptop. Okay, so here we are. I've opened up the Goodreads website, and here are the categories for the final round, which ends in 5 days. The categories I voted for in the first round and the second round were fantasy, romance, and young adult fantasy, and mystery and thriller. So I'm gonna be voting for these categories once again, and let's start with the mystery thriller genre. So let's see which books have made it, if the book I voted for has made it. So we have the new Harlan Coben book. I haven't read it. One by One, I started reading it and I was kind of bored. I didn't really enjoy the setting. I mean, I don't know, I really liked the gothic setting in Ruth West's last two books. Yeah, The Death of Mrs. Westaway and Turn of the Key. So I really like the setting in both of those, but for One by One, she returns to kind of a modern day office kind of setting, and I don't know, well, it's not technically set in an office, it's like an office retreat, but still, I don't know, maybe I'll read it. I mean, I'll surely read it. I've got the audiobook, but I kind of lost interest. And the same for the guest list. This one is a wedding retreat, and I was super bored when I read this one. I've heard nothing but bad things about the wives. Literally, I haven't heard a single person enjoy this book, so I have no idea how it made it onto this list and onto the final round, because literally, if you open it and see, look, it's got 3.65 average rating. Yeah, it's got a lot of ratings, almost 90,000, but pretty much everyone hates this book, at least the people I've talked to. So I don't know, I'm super surprised it made it here. Tana French, again, I'm definitely gonna read this as soon as possible because I love Tana French. I just haven't had the chance to read it yet. The same goes for The Devil and the Dark Water. And I wasn't the biggest fan of The Sundown Motel. It's a good book, it's just not the best of the year in my opinion. So again, in both previous two rounds, I'm gonna vote for Home Before Dark, which is one of my all-time favorite mystery thrillers. It was amazing. In my opinion, Riley Sager can do no wrong. So here we are. Yeah, most of these books are, I'd say, good books from authors that you'd expect to see in the final round of the genre. So definitely, with the exception of The Wives, I can really see what all the other books are doing here. But then again, I mean, obviously a lot of people must have voted for The Wives. It's just, and I haven't, I read, because I was super interested why people hated it so much. So I read a very detailed summary of the book because I didn't want to invest I don't know, a few hours to read it actually. And I read the synopsis and the summary and everything that happened, and yeah, I get why people don't like it. It was kind of ridiculous. The plot was a bit ridiculous. Moving on to the fantasy category, let's see. Okay, so one of the biggest controversies here was that when the first round, the opening round, books were announced, Rhythm of War and The Burning God hadn't yet been published. So a lot of people were like, kind of, what are these books doing here? Because they're not published yet. But anyway, so The Burning God obviously hasn't passed the second round. And I think the fact that it was nominated here and instead of like next year's awards did it kind of a disservice, because a lot of people who might have really enjoyed it, and I'm sure that a lot of people are going to enjoy it because the series is really good, at least according to popular opinion, but a lot of people haven't read it, and hadn't read it by the time like the second round finished or ended. So people didn't vote for it because it was just coming out. And yeah, it kind of, the fact that it was nominated did the book disservice, in my opinion. But anyway, but Rhythm of War is here, and I think that a lot of people have voted for it, even though they haven't read it yet, or like they might have finished it now, but like in the previous rounds they hadn't read it because it wasn't out yet, and very few people had arcs. So a lot of people have voted for it because Brandon Sanderson, like they have this undying faith in Sanderson, like I do. I mean, the man can do no wrong, in my opinion. But still, like, the book came out in the 17th of November, so anyway, rant over. The final book in the Devabat trilogy, The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, Deadly Education. Well, I'm still gonna vote for Crescent City because out of all these books, Crescent City was definitely my favorite out of the books that I've read, and I've read a fair share of these. So yeah, Crescent City, absolutely. Next, let's see the romance category. And okay, Beach Read, From Blood and Ash, The Switch. Okay. Well, to be honest, I adore Beach Read. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. I think it's one of the best books I've ever read. It's amazing. But I also love From Blood and Ash. And I vote in both previous like rounds, I voted for From Blood and Ash, even though it's fantasy romance. And in my opinion, it should have been in the fantasy category and not in the romance category, because I just think that the fantasy plotline and just the fantasy setting was the predominant part of the story. Yes, the romance was very, like, it was a subplot which was very present and had, like, a lot of the book was occupied by the romance, but still, in first place, I think it's fantasy. So this was my problem with this book being here instead of the fantasy genre. On the other hand, in the fantasy category, it most definitely wouldn't have ranked among like Brandon Sanderson and Joe Abercrombie and like all the heavyweights of the fantasy genre. So on one hand, I'm super happy that it's here and it's like in the final round, but on the other hand, I just don't think this is the right category, because now I cannot vote for Beach Read. And like, I don't know, Beach Read is a romance novel, in my opinion, and From Blood and Ash is fantasy romance, but fantasy in the first place. So still I'm gonna vote for From Blood and Ash, just because it's one of my favorite books of all time, and not just one of my favorite romances. So yeah, I'm gonna vote for From Blood and Ash. I don't read that many romances, and in general, the few romances I read are historical romances. So I'm trying to like read more romance because I just really like the genre. But unfortunately, I don't have a lot of experience with it. But it's like, because out of all these books, I don't see a single historical romance. And I think all of these are traditionally published as well. And the romance genre has a lot of really great self-published books and authors who just in general self-publish. And it's really, I don't know, sad that none of the self-published books have made it. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. One of these might be like self-published, but I don't think so. I think all of these are traditionally published. And I don't know. There should have been some historical romances, and there should have been some self-published books here, in my opinion. But anyway, I voted for From Blood and Ash. And now moving on to the YA fiction category. Now, I just want to see which books have made it onto the final round. I did not vote in this category for both the first round or the second round because I had only read the murder mysteries, the YA murder mysteries, like of all the books that were nominated. And I thought that there were a lot of YA books like nominated which were like coming out stories or like family stories, just books that in general had, I wouldn't say like more importance or anything, but like for young people, they might have been just more important books. And I had only read like the more entertaining books. Like if you can, this is like such a silly thing to say, like to divide those books in like entertaining and important, but I hope you understand what I mean. But seeing like which books are kind of left, like the final 10, kind of half of them are the murder mysteries. So I think that because I've read like 5 of them, I've read 5 of the final 10, so I think it's fair enough that I vote, even though I didn't vote in the previous 2 rounds, just because like I thought more kind of, oh, this is bad, like I don't want to say important books, just books with a very specific message which might be more impactful than a murder mystery to young people, more impactful to young people. But seeing as like how half of the books that have made it onto the final round are precisely like the murder mysteries that I've read and I've really enjoyed, so I'm gonna vote in this round. And so, The Inheritance Games, One of Us is Next, The Hand on the Wall, A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. I think that I'll vote for The Inheritance Games. I think that out of all of these, I enjoyed The Inheritance Games the most. Yeah. Okay. And the final category that I'm gonna vote in is YA fantasy and sci-fi. So let's see. Fable, Cemetery Boys, Starside, Queen of Nothing. Oh my god. My feelings about Queen of Nothing are very, very negative. So this is definitely not gonna be my favorite book of the year. Chain of Gold, Children of Virtue and Vengeance, Legendborn, Cinderella is Dead. So Legendborn is on my list. I am really like, I cannot wait to read it. I have the audiobook and I know that I'm certain I'm gonna absolutely love it. It's YA fantasy inspired by Arthurian legend, and I'm obsessed by Arthurian legend, so yeah. But I still haven't read it, so I can vote for it. And I think that I'm still gonna vote for Chain of Gold, because out of all these books, it's definitely my favorite of those that I've read, and it's one of my favorite books of the year, and it's definitely my favorite Cassie Clare book so far. So yeah, Chain of Gold, definitely Chain of Gold. Okay. Great, so that was it. Thank you so much for joining me while I voted in the final round of the Goodreads Choice Awards. Let me know which books you voted for. I'm super curious to see like what my friends and like people I know have voted for. So definitely let me know in the comments down below, and tell me what you think of my votes. Do you hate them? And yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!